If you work in e-commerce, you've definitely built a funnel report. Session start, PLP, PDP, and begin checkout. It looks clean, it looks linear, and it definitely tells a story. But the problem is that story is often wrong. Here's the thing that most analysts miss. The user journey on your website is one thing, the marketing funnel is a completely different one. Especially if you're on a website, users can land on it using completely different entry points based on channel, based on season, and especially based on which type of campaigns you're running. Some users might land on the PLP, the product listing page, while other users might land on the PDP, the product detail page, especially if you're running PMAX ads, for example. Ultimately, there is no single path. And if you treat your e-commerce funnel as if there is a unique user journey, well, you're gonna misread everything that you see. Hi, my name is Paolo, and in this video, I'm gonna walk you through everything you need to know about an e-commerce funnel, especially if you are an e-commerce analyst or a marketer. Specifically in this video, we will discuss the upper funnel, which is the section of the funnel that goes from session start up to begin checkout. And we will also go through a real-life example with real numbers, and by the end of this video you will have learned why funnel diagnostics is really important to interpret your marketing strategy and to understand whether your UX or your conversion might be silently breaking. Let's begin. So let's start with one of the most misunderstood concepts in e-commerce, which is the funnel. And we're going to break the funnel into two different sections, the upper funnel and the lower funnel. And hear me out because you will understand why the funnel differs from the user journey. So on the one hand, we have the upper funnel, which consists of session start, PLP, PDP, and begin checkout. On the other hand, we have the lower funnel, which usually consists of the following steps: begin checkout, add shipping method, add payment method, and purchase, the final step. So they look similar, they are both called funnels, but they behave in completely different ways. And if you analyze them in the same way, well, you're going to misread both of them. So the key difference here is that the upper funnel is an open funnel, which means exactly what it sounds like. Users can enter at any point, exit at any point, and they can navigate through it in the order that they want. There is no enforced path, there is no sequence of the steps that users need to make. If you could track a user navigating through your e-commerce and follow him in any single pages that he visited in the upper funnel, you would get nothing like a funnel. You'd get something more similar to a web. Let's look at this example. A user lands on the PDP from a Google Shopping ad. Then they scroll, they're not sure, they go to the home page. They browse around a little bit. Then they go back to the PDP. They click into the PLP to look at some alternatives. Then they go back to the original PDP, then they skip straight to the checkout. And that path hits the PDP twice, homepage once, PLP once, and completely bypasses add to cart as a tracked step. And that's only one user. The next one might do something completely different, and same goes for the one after that, and so on. But be careful, because Google Analytics allows you to close the funnel, meaning that you can restrict the analysis to the sessions that follow a predefined path. While this may sound methodologically rigorous, well, it often results in a significant reduction of the number of users considered, leaving only a small and potentially not representative subset of users within the analysis taken into consideration. That is why, if your goal is to understand how users navigate your website or your e-commerce, well, the best tool in J4 is page path, not funnel. Page path, in fact, does not assume a sequence. It shows you the actual steps that users take at any given page, in the order that they actually took it. And with page path, you can surface the real navigation behavior of your users, despite being quite messy. But at least it's honest. So why does anyone would actually represent the upper funnel sequentially? Because even though the paths of your users are quite chaotic at the individual level, well, the aggregate numbers still carry meaning as long as you interpret it correctly. And correct interpretation of the upper funnel comes from the length of your marketing mix and not using bounce rate or completion rates. When it comes to upper funnel, I like to think of it using two layers, the digital layer and the marketing mix layer. The first layer, I call it digital. It's quite superficial, and it represents the aggregate numbers of all the users who had a session in each one of the steps of the upper funnel. Where users enter, which pages users hit more frequently, whether they land or navigate in PDP or PLP. Reading those numbers without context doesn't really explain what drove the increases at each step of the funnel versus last year and versus last week. You can track it, of course, you can read it, but without proper knowledge of the marketing mix and the media strategy, there is the high risk of flagging negative numbers when they are actually not so negative. So to turn data into actionable insights when it comes to upper funnel, well, it's really important to look at the second layer, the marketing mix. The upper funnel, as we said, is not a primer representation of your user's behavior. Instead, it's a reflection of your media strategy. And all of that is strongly influenced by which channels are active, what is your marketing strategy, what is your budget allocated to paid media, and which are the type of campaigns that you are actually running. A shift in your PMAX investments will change the entry rates of your PDP. A reduction on campaigns based on brand keywords, like the brand pure campaigns of Google's, will definitely decrease your homepage landing. A seasonal push on display might increase your session start counts, but also an out-of-home campaign with a QR code might also push traffic onto your website on the AKP, for example. The numbers of the upper funnel must be read in relationship to your marketing strategy. When you change your marketing strategy, those numbers will reflect that change. If you want to analyze the upper funnel using Google Analytics, well, you can use the standard reports of Google Analytics that you can find in the report section inside monetization, and then click on Purchase Journey. Be aware that this standard report is set on the metric active users and cannot be changed. But don't worry, if you want to analyze the upper funnel using a different metrics like session, or if you want to build your own funnel with your own funnel step, well, make sure to check out this video in which I talk about segments, which are key tools for analyzing many things, including funnel. Now, the lower funnel, so the section that goes from begin checkout up to the purchase, is a completely different story. The lower funnel must be conceived, in fact, as a closed funnel. The steps that users take are forced. They can only move forward. Yes, of course, there is a degree of flexibility also in here. Users can go back a step, for example. Someone might go back from payment to shipping to update their address, for example. But the important thing is that users cannot skip steps or, for example, enter mid-sequence like you can do for the upper funnel. And in general, there is less freedom of navigation. You have to add shipping before actually adding the payment, and you have to begin checkout before starting everything. It's a real funnel, and unfortunately, the more you're gonna go forward, the more users, unfortunately, are gonna bounce. But that's completely normal. But still, it changes everything in terms of how you analyze the different funnels, the upper funnel and the lower funnel. In a closed funnel, for example, a drop between two steps might be potentially interpreted as a friction. If there is a higher bounce rate versus a different period, like for example versus last year, there is a high indication that at that specific step of the funnel, something might have broken, or something is low, or something is confusing for users. You don't need to go and factor in the marketing mix. You just need to go in the funnel and find the problem. So in a nutshell, the upper funnel is the aggregate of all the journeys of your users. It's messy, it's open, and it's directly linked to your marketing strategy and your channel mix. On the other hand, the lower funnel, it's closed, it's sequential, it's strongly UX driven, and it's much more directly diagnostic. Keep those two mental models separate, and data will start to make sense real soon. Now let's get our hands dirty and let's go through a real life example. So looking at the following table, we've got session starts, which are down by 1.7% year over year. But, well, that could be seasonal. It could be a shift in organic traffic, for example. But then PLP is down nearly by 16%, while PDP is actually up 3.25%. But that doesn't mean that less people are moving from the homepage to PLP, because not every user lands on the homepage. It just means that fewer people are browsing category pages, the PLP, and more people at the same time are landing directly on PDP, the product pages. That's a classic PMAX signature. I mean, more investment in product level campaigns means more direct PDP entry. It's not a problem of the funnel, but you need to know that before you report it. Then, if you're unhappy that many people are landing on PDP, you should go talk to your media agency or revisit and realign your strategy. But reporting a 16% drop at the PLP stage without that context, well, it's going to create maybe a bit of panic in the room. Let's now add two additional relevant steps of the funnel that you can track and that users make before beginning to check out. These steps can also be included in the upper funnel at your wish, and they are the add to cart and the view cart. The view cart is not present in all e-commerce stores, but it's quite common. So add to cart is up 7.75%, while view cart is up 16.74%. But begin checkout is down by minus 26.4% versus last year. Okay, let's go through that again. Add to cart is up, view cart is up by a higher number, but begin checkout is down. More people are adding products to the cart, more people are looking at their cart, and then significantly fewer people are actually starting checkout. Well, this is not a marketing problem. Yes, it could be a change in the user behavior, but it's also very possible that it's a UX problem or a tracking problem. With this number, it's not completely out of context that something is causing friction at the very moment of purchase intent. Maybe the checkout button broke for a payment type, or there is a promo field that is causing drop-off. Whatever it is, this is exactly the kind of signal that a lower funnel analysis or a lower funnel dashboard is trying to surface. And of course, this demands a specific and dedicated investigation, not just a note during the weekly meeting. If you want to learn more about the lower funnel and how to interpret data of a closed funnel using dedicated analysis, well, make sure to check out this video where we talk about the key metric that you need to use in these occasions, the completion rate and the bounce rate. So which are the main implications for an e-commerce professional after watching this video? So first of all, the upper funnel tells you something about the marketing mix, not your user's journey, while the lower funnel tells you something about your digital product, your e-commerce, not your marketing campaigns. If you read them in the same way, well, you will be wrong about both. And then remember, when it comes to upper funnel analysis, always take into considerations two levels, the digital level, the first one, and then the marketing level, the second one. And the numbers of your superficial level, the digital level, can only be interpreted correctly using the media strategy and the channel mix. A 16% drop in PLP can be a problem, but it could also be your media strategy doing exactly what you've been told them to do. The difference is the context, and that context is always the marketing mix. This video has reframed how you look at your funnel dashboards. Well, make sure to drop a comment down below because I would be genuinely interested to know. The analysts who get this are not those who build cleaner funnels. They're the ones who know when a funnel number is a marketing signal and when instead is a UX problem. And that distinction is what separates a data report from an actual insight. And if you work in e-commerce or digital marketing, well, make sure to like this video and follow this channel because we will talk about the frameworks, real-life examples, and things that actually matter in practice whenever it comes to data analytics. So thanks for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.